Hello and welcome to my channel. There is actually 12 new subscribers to this channel, so thank you for subscribing if you're new here. I also haven't posted in like 6 months, so some of you might be wondering who I am. But also, if I know you in real life, thank you so much for watching my videos. That's very nice of you. Basically, this video is going to be about a transformative summer in my life where I kind of tapped into my creativity more and how I jump started that self growth in my life. So let's get into it. I have my ginger ale Olipop for the vibes. In May 2025, I graduated college, which was very exciting. A lot had gone into that milestone in my life. So I was very excited about that. But then straight after that, I returned home to my parents' house to do a remote internship. So I kind of didn't know what to do with myself, especially just going from the stark contrast of being constantly busy with school, homework, group projects, hanging out with friends, cooking myself dinner, everything like that, to kind of just returning home to my parents' house and having everything be easy. That was very weird for me. Also, I acknowledge I'm very blessed to be able to do that. So it was just a really weird transition, and I am someone who's kind of constantly overwhelmed by stress, but I also kind of thrive on routine, and I like being stressed a little bit because it makes me feel like I'm doing something with my life. So this that was another reason why returning home was very weird for me. So I was thankful that I didn't have this constant busy schedule, but at the same time was struggling with this period of self doubt. And this was because I didn't have a job yet, still don't. And this was not for lack of trying. I felt like I had been constantly applying to these jobs, doing interviews, having praying to God literally for a job. and nothing was working out. There was a lot of doors being closed, and I felt like doors being closed without other ones being opened of what I was actually meant to be doing, where God wanted me to be in this phase of my life. So, what did I do with myself? Well, I didn't deal with it very well. I didn't like this feeling of comparison of all my friends having jobs and me not, or people having plans for the future, signing leases, and me just living with my parents doing a remote internship. So I kind of did everything I could to avoid this feeling. And I just like mass applied for jobs. I doom scrolled on LinkedIn. I spent a lot of time on social media, just like, I guess, numbing myself. And I made plans to go see friends, kind of just anything I could to escape the situation. And now the summer's coming to an end. I'm still in like the same kind of situation as I was before because I still don't have a job. I'm still looking for one. I'm still living with my parents doing the same remote internship. But most importantly, I feel like I've changed a lot internally and I have a better mindset about things. And I think a lot of this is being like more revitalized, inspired, willing to tap into my creativity and excited about doing so. And so I think that was like what was lacking for a long time in my life. So this is what I did through God's grace to get to this point. The first thing I knew that I needed to improve was kind of having all this noise in my mind and not really having the space to like come up with ideas or be creative because I just felt like there was an excess of noise. And a lot of this was coming from social media. I would not say that in like generally, I don't think I have a social media addiction. There's definitely people who are a lot better about social media than me. Um, but I just felt like in college I always like had something going on. Like if it wasn't class, it was homework. If it wasn't that, it was like talking with my roommates or something like that. So I didn't really feel like a lot of the time I was just like scrolling on social media a lot. But then kind of going home and like having this void of college that kind of made me just doom scroll on Instagram specifically a lot. And so I could kind of see that it was getting out of hand midsummer. And there's one thing I do that like I can feel myself doing it in the moment, but I just like self-sabotage, I guess. It's going on social media as soon as you wake up or right before you go to bed. That just like completely ruins my day or just like puts me in like a bad headspace before bed. I don't think that social media is bad per se, but for me personally, it was easy to fall into like these negative cycles of things that I knew I shouldn't be doing and that like didn't make me feel good, but I was just doing it anyways. So for me, my personality type specifically, I feel like I can just like be real with myself and be like, okay, we're not doing that anymore, and then kind of just take it away from myself without an alternative. And so I downloaded this app, Opal, and a lot of you have probably heard of it. It's just like another app blocker, but I basically set it so like I couldn't go on Instagram until 10 a.m. in the morning, and then I couldn't go on it after like 9 p.m. at night. And so that kind of just made me not be able to go on social media. Oh no, I just spilled this on myself. Oh well. And the second thing I started doing was morning pages. And so I had this drive to write more this summer, but journaling specifically, I get like burned out of because I don't like rereading my day to day events, or like the two things I usually journal about are like day to day events or my feelings, like especially like if I'm in a bad mood, I'll just like rant about it. So like I don't like rereading those kinds of things just because it's either boring or it's just like negative and I'm like, jeez, the girl was going through it. So I wanted to find a way to kind of journal, but just like in a different style. And so I had heard a lot of people bringing up the artist's way like in YouTube videos I was watching. And so I just like bought the book on a whim because I was like, I want to be more creative. I'll show you the book. A little show and tell action. So this is the artist's way. People either like it or no, people either love it or they're like, this is stupid. I can kind of see both sides. I am only like 3 weeks through. It's basically like a 12-week recovery program for creativity. And I kind of fell off of it just because I had a lot going on like the last couple weeks. I think I'm on like week 4. But the two like differentiating things about it, I guess, are the morning pages and the artist state. So basically, the woman who wrote this book, Julia Cameron, she tells you to like write 3 pages stream of consciousness every morning, like right when you wake up. And then you just like take out the pages and like put them in a folder and you don't really look at them again. So this is the journal I've been doing that in. And you can tell that I kind of just gave up like regular journaling because like halfway through I just started ripping out pages. Yeah, so you basically just write 3 pages. Nothing really groundbreaking, but I've been doing it consistently probably for like 3 weeks, as I mentioned, and I feel like I'm finally getting to the point where I can see myself like having good ideas when I'm writing, or it can just be nice to like if you wake up and like something's bothering you, you can just like write it, get it out on the page, and then not really like revisit it for the rest of the day because you've kind of acknowledged it already. And then another thing I think is important to touch on, especially like for the excessive noise that I'm mentioning, is prayer and either putting yourself in the presence of God or like reading scripture. And especially like in the morning, I've been trying to do my Bible in a year plan. Um, am I on May 29th and it's like August 8th right now? Yes, but that doesn't matter as long as you're doing a little bit each day. So I wanted to mention this because for my internship this summer, I've been interviewing people a lot about their faith journey and things that have helped them in their faith, especially like if they used to not be as in touch with their faith and then kind of had this reversion and came back to it. And a lot of people had the consensus that like making time for the sacraments, like a holy hour, putting yourself in the presence of God, making time for that in your life, that really helps them. And so I guess like hearing this over and over again finally clocked to me. And then I was like, okay, I should be doing that. So as I mentioned before, I was going through this like self doubt in my life. And so I was just basically praying my desperation away and being like, God, please show me where you want me to be. What is your plan for me? Like, show me clearly, I guess. The more like you reflect on yourself, especially like through prayer, you can kind of see like the areas you can improve in the present day. Like if you're praying for a certain thing to happen, I guess you can kind of like you kind of get clarity about like why you don't have that thing yet, or what you can be doing to kind of live more presently in the moment that you're in or in the situation that you're in. And so for me, this was exactly that, like being more present like with my family, keeping like a positive mindset, and realizing like the things I have to be grateful for in the stage of my life, instead of just always like asking for more and more and more. I feel like when I talk about like elements of the Catholic faith, sometimes I feel like I'm not getting myself across correctly, or I'm like saying the wrong thing, or it's like too personal to me to like talk about. But that is like an area I'm also trying to grow in, is to talk about my experiences without me feeling like insecure about it. So this is my attempt to do that. And this leads me to part 3, which was a drive to kind of think more thoughts, be more reflective, especially through reading and writing. And as I just said before, sometimes I think that like the things I have to say, or sometimes I feel like I don't really like have opinions about things. And that when people ask me like about a take I have about a certain thing, like I don't really have anything to say, but really I like do have things to say, but I just don't know how to articulate it correctly. So I decided to kind of treat this as more of an area for growth instead of just a shortcoming or insecurity of mine. I think that it really helps to write things down physically, and then you can kind of just see like, okay, that is like what I think about this certain topic. Or just the difference between writing things down physically and writing on your computer. I feel like sometimes when I write it physically, it's like more fun for me to work on things. So I was inspired to do this by this notebook ecosystem video that I watched, and let me find her name. Her name is Just Olivia, and probably a lot of you have seen this video because it has like 90,000 views. But basically, she just went through like all the notebooks she uses on a daily basis, and that kind of just inspired me because I had like 5 empty notebooks, and I was like, I do kind of want to like start writing more things down physically. So I'll give you a little show and tell because I know you care. So this is my commonplace notebook, and my sister-in-law got me this notebook. It says my name on it. So that's very exciting. But basically, you can just write anything you want in a commonplace notebook, and a lot of people section it out to be like an index of like this page is where I write about this certain thing. But I kind of use it as notes on books, notes on movies. I watch nonfiction, fiction, scripture verses that I like, or that I want to remember, or like quotes I see on Pinterest or something like that that I want to remember. So I think it can just really help to kind of formulate your thoughts on things. Because sometimes when I read a book, I do love to read and I read a lot, but sometimes I just feel like I'm devouring the book and just enjoying it in the present moment, but then I don't really remember anything about it after the fact, or like the things I especially liked, the things that I didn't especially like. So I actually haven't written in this in a long time, but this is my sign to keep on doing that. And then I have always been a Google Calendar girl, and I feel like a lot of college students are because that's just the standard. And I also use Notion for a lot of things in college as well. I feel like that just makes more sense so that you don't need to bring like a notebook around everywhere. You can just bring your computer. But I did kind of just want to fill up this notebook. So I started using it as a planner, and that's been fun. I guess it's like it's nice to just be able to see like what you were doing in the past weeks, just being able to flip back to it and then see like, oh, I was doing this thing on that day, instead of just deleting it after the fact or never seeing it on Google Calendar again. So that's that. And then this is my morning pages journal, as I mentioned before. So I kind of just use it for loose leaf at this point. And then this is my favorite one. It's my video production notebook. So I use this like for my internship, and then for YouTube stuff, or like basically creative ideas. I also had another notebook that I just got, but it's just like a mini notepad where I just write down ideas. So yeah, that is how I've been trying to kind of reflect on my thoughts more and be more of a physical writer girl. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to talk about in this video was this turning point in my life, which really just I feel like that was the main catalyst in me jumpstarting my creativity, if you will. And that was participating in the summer academy with EWTN. I basically applied to this 2 years ago and I didn't get in the first year. So I reapplied again this year. And then after I got in this year, it was like the timing was really perfect, especially because I didn't have a job yet. So I could actually go. Like I was able to take time off for my internship and everything. So it turned out the timing was kind of perfect. That kind of does show God's timing is better. There's a lot I could say about this experience in my life, and I don't know how in depth I want to go, but basically it was a 10-day long training program for Catholic media, and it was just like a lot of journalists, video producers, content creators, all kind of interested in this area of spreading the Catholic faith. And this was the first time in my life I had really talked to other people who were interested in this topic of Catholic media. So this was very cool to have people with this commonality. And also, just so many people there were like videographers, had like YouTube channels, were doing social media content. So it kind of just made me less shy, I guess, about my interests and kind of just made me realize like, that's so cool that like this person is doing it, so like I shouldn't be so embarrassed about like myself. Not embarrassed, but I guess I'm just like reserved when it comes to talking about my interests, especially when it comes to like video production or media. And so it kind of just showed me like how cool it can actually be and like why you shouldn't be like so nonchalant about the things you're interested in, because chances are there's someone out there who's interested in that exact same topic as you, and so you just need to find those people and surround yourself with those people who just kind of get you, and really that can increase your creativity because you can just be so inspired by the people you're around. Also, another big thing I learned was to just start even if it's not good. Like, that's literally why I'm filming this video right now. Like, I'm scared of how it's going to turn out. I'm probably going to be like editing this and be like, what the heck? But you know what? You have to start somewhere. And then if I start now, in 3 years, my videos are actually going to be good. So let this be your sign to start something, even though it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be something and it's going to be a start. Literally, the only way to improve is to practice. And you're never going to practice if you never start. I am kind of this way just as a perfectionist. I just want to be immediately good at things, and literally no one is immediately good at things. So you're just never going to try anything if you're not immediately good at it. So I really just got out of my comfort zone with this program, and I definitely failed at some things. I eventually improved, and it's not that big of a deal. Just try it. Another thing I think is super important to creativity in general is keeping yourself accountable. And I read this Substack article about I think it was called the ideation to execution gap. And it was basically about how when you have a good idea, you need to like structure the process and act on it as soon as possible before you make excuses for yourself and don't execute, which is why a lot of people, like myself included, they'll have a good idea and then I'll just like never do anything about it because nothing's lining up for it to be perfect. And when in reality, like you're the only one who can really structure the process and develop your idea enough to actually act on it. In the mindset I am right now, I feel like I've been having good ideas lately, and then I'm like almost kind of stressed because I don't want to allow myself to not execute on that idea, which is another reason why I'm posting this video. Oh, why am I holding it like that? Another thing that's been super important in developing my creativity this summer is my faith and keeping an open mind to where God wants me to be and what He wants me to do, other than fixating on something I want to do and kind of praying to accomplish that thing when it might not be part of the plan that God has for me. So, at the beginning of the summer, I kind of felt more in a haze or in kind of like this weird no man's land of life slipping past me while my friends' lives moved on. And I kind of, instead of putting my trust into God, well, I was putting my trust into God, but it was more of like a blind faith of like, well, something has to work out eventually, and God will put me where He wants to be. But that's true, definitely. But also, it's important to actively pray and like actively think about those things, so that you're not blind to the opportunities that are presenting themselves to you or that could be good for you. So, like for me, that was basically what the EWTN Summer Academy was, because I had this plan to do it for all of the summer, and I kind of just like hadn't really thought about it. It kind of hadn't really like registered to me that it was like such a great opportunity. And then when it actually happened, it kind of made me realize, oh, that was like something God put into my life for a reason, and there is a reason why certain things had to happen for that to happen. So it was kind of like an opportunity that presented itself to me that I kind of just took on blind faith instead of just like reflecting about it and realizing how lucky I was to be able to do that, which now I can see that in hindsight, which I feel like is a lot of the time you can see things in hindsight that you didn't see before. Duh. Also, the last thing I feel like kind of impacted my creativity was social media. And before, I kind of like was more anti social media, even though I was also on it. I kind of just could only see the negative parts of it, like AKA me doom scrolling or like comparison, like portraying yourself as a highlight reel. None of these are like hot takes. I feel like this is a dead horse that's been beaten. Um, so I can see why some people want to stay off of it entirely, but especially through the summer academy, I could see like the benefits of it, and like for spreading the Catholic faith, for highlighting like persecution that's happening in parts of the world, which so many people who are like participating in this academy were kind of bringing light to. And that was something I had been like more ignorant to in the past myself, and so I could kind of see like how social media was helping with this problem. For me personally, I feel like it's so important to like keep this balance between consuming and creating. Before, I basically wasn't creating anything. I was kind of just consuming other people's content, aka Instagram Reels. But I don't know. It's just like more fun to like put out content and be more casual about it. So I feel like that's like where the positive effects of social media come into for me. So I started like a more like fun account where like I can post content that I make and not like have it be like the serious thing that I'm trying to monetize or profit off of, but it's more of just like for me to keep up with my creativity and hold myself accountable. And lastly, as I said, it's so important to keep this balance. Specifically, like I just need to be disciplined for myself because I know like I can take it if I'm like, okay, we're just not doing that anymore. So just setting those limits. Opal is my best friend. So I feel like doing a detox every few weeks, that's also helpful because it kind of just resets your mindset of knowing like, okay, this is not real life. You can be happy like without social media, and also it's like just a silly thing. So lastly, where I stand now, as I said before, I feel like the biggest change that's occurred is internally because I'm still in the same situation as I was before, basically. If you know anyone that's hiring, hit me up. uh I kind of just had this realizations of being present where you are, being grateful for what I have, realizing the blessings that I have in my life, and then also growing in the situation that I'm in right now. And so I just feel like this drive lately to tap into my creativity more. Take a shot every time I say creativity in this video. But another thing I wanted to say is like sometimes you just have to pretend you're creative, and then that's half the battle. Because I feel like for a long time I just didn't really consider myself a creativity. I feel like for a long time I just didn't really consider myself a create. You know when you say a word too many times, then it starts feeling like it's not a real word. That's what's happening to me right now. What I'm trying to say is sometimes you just have to gaslight yourself and be like, you are creative, and then you are creative. If you think you are, that's half the battle. So maybe someone need to hear that. And then like just the most important lesson, as I've said in this video, is just having faith that God has a plan for you above what you could foresee for your life. There's something even better in store. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video somewhat, and I hope what I was saying was at least a little bit coherent. I am really trying to post more. So if you have any nice constructive criticism, let me know. So thank you for watching and have a nice day.